economics correspondent Matt Cranston. But first, let's get to this breaking news about the woman from Gaza who's been detained in dawn raids today. For more, let's bring in National Senator M.Canavan and Daily Telegraph journalist James Willis. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Now, this raid, this woman being detained, has prompted a snap rally outside Tony Burke's office tonight. She's a 61-year-old woman from Gaza. Her home is in Western Sydney. She was raided this morning. She's been deemed a security risk under character grounds by ASIO. This is according to the Daily Telegraph, which broke this story just a little while ago. James, starting with you on this because you're at the paper that broke this story. What more can you tell us?
Well, Sharri, there's a lot that we're still working through on this, but the story that's gone up this afternoon from Lachlan Leeming and Tom Sargent, as you say, a 61-year-old grandmother from Gaza. There was a dawn raid at Bankstown by ASIO. She's been taken to Villawood Immigration Detention Centre. The bridging visa cancelled because of failing the character test. That what is alleged. And there's basically a little bit more information that talks about the fact that she did not pass this character test. Now, what's interesting is, as we know, there were a number of Palestinian people that were evacuated from Gaza, and there were some SNAP visas provided. From what I can read and what we understand, we're not sure if this lady is part of that. There's a suggestion that she was visiting people in Saudi Arabia and then wasn't allowed to go back to Palestine after that, or Gaza after that. So it's a tricky one. ASIO are keeping quiet on this, but off the back of it, which I find very interesting, is the fact that you have dozens of people that have gathered at Tony Burke's office. There's a big sign with what appears to be blood on it. They were saying they were refusing to leave until this woman was released, saying she's done nothing wrong. So it's a very tense situation unfolding in Sydney's southwest this afternoon.
And M.Canavan, this was always going to be the issue with the government rushing through visas with limited security checks. We just don't know what level of security checks were done in this instance. We don't know what sort of visa she was given. The Telegraph's reporting that she arrived here from Gaza, though, last year. Tony Burke has said previously that he wouldn't send anyone back to Gaza, so this is now going to be very complicated for the government.
It probably will be, Sharri. As James has said, we don't really know all of the details of this specific case, but this general issue has been there since the government rammed through the approval of a bunch of visas from people from Gaza. Now, on their own admission, they couldn't do the normal character tests on the ground. Obviously, that couldn't happen in the middle of a war zone. And the government effectively imported a huge security risk to our country. Now, I feel for many of the people in Gaza that have had their lives turned upside down, some of them innocently, but we have to, of course, protect the security of our own country first. And when taking refugees, we have to have the ability to check and secure our interests. Now, as I say, I don't know enough about this case to know if it's an example here, but clearly there was an importation of a risk, an unnecessary risk, last year the government presided over. And I hope just now the government stays strong. If this is true, this person here is on a bridging visa, on a visa. The Australian government has every right to revoke that visa and return her, if possible, deport her from this country. Just like we refused Kanye West. We refused him coming to this country. We control our borders. We can also refuse an activist from the Middle East who may be a risk to the Australian people's safety.
The issue is, of course, that she's already here, and it just makes it so complicated for what the government's going to do. All right, let's turn to this exclusive story in the Sydney Morning Herald that Australia could pay more for submarines under the AUKUS deal. Now, James Patterson has said that the Albanese government needs to step in and take control of this AUKUS review that's going on. Now, James, the broader issue here is that Albanese could lose AUKUS altogether because he's just not engaging successfully with the Trump administration.
Well, firstly, as we know, there's a lot to do on the relationship between the Albanese government and the Trump administration. We've heard the stories about Kevin Rudd this week. I think that is still a big problem. I note Barnaby Joyce has called for some hard action there and Trump to Rudd to be moved on. And I'm starting to think that if there is a problem there, that it needs to be addressed. And if it's impacting our relationship, then something will have to give there eventually. On the wider issue, I'm not that concerned because I realise that, yes, this is a lot of money. We're talking about more than $300 billion. But because of the alliance, it's the kind of thing with defence things blow out. There's some concerns here initially that it might be one contribution as part of the plan, which works out to be about $5 billion in regards to jobs or manufacturing. So I'm not too concerned just yet, and I know these projects blow out, but the wider relationship is deeply problematic at the moment.
Matt, it does seem like there are now rocky waters. As part of this story, it suggests that the US might also demand that Australia commit to using these submarines on America's side if there is a conflict with China. What do you think about this?
Look, I'd be concerned about such a provision, Sharri. I think we must maintain our own country's sovereignty. Obviously, we have agreements with the United States that if they are attacked, our allies attacked, we have already committed to help defend them. We activated that after September 11. Obviously, the situation in Taiwan, though, is not US territory and would be an additional obligation placed on Australia. So I'd be wary about that. But this, to me, does underline the fact that we have probably put way too much pressure and burden on the AUKUS agreement. I'd love to see us get those nuclear submarines. It is very important, but I think we've pursued that and used that as a shield to avoid hard questions about why we aren't developing guided weapons. We're developing cookbooks, but not guided weapons.
Yes.
Why we're developing, why we're not developing drone technologies. All these other things have to be prioritised now. Just for the case that we may not, maybe AUKUS doesn't happen, we have to diversify our military preparedness away from just one agreement.
No, 100% agree with that. Now, opposition leader Sussan Ley has done a glam shoot with the Women's Weekly where she's spoken about what seems to be quite an unusual, maybe even far-fetched story. She claims she was on the road in central New South Wales years ago when she had pulled over for the night, setting up her swag before a motorbike drove over. The story says that Lee said she then pulled out a semi-automatic rifle bought legally from a Queanbeyan gun shop and told the rider, "I'm here with my tall, skinny mate," attributing the line to an unidentified movie from US action star Clint Eastwood. James, I don't know. I struggle to imagine a scenario in which a young woman would be setting up swag on the side of a road and then pull a gun out at someone. It seems pretty unusual.
Well, let's take her on face value, and if it happened, it's amazing. If there's a bit of mayo on top, so be it. I find it very hard to believe she would make it up from nothing. But equally, if it did occur in the way that we did, and yes, she said it was a legally purchased gun, well, then kudos to her. She's pretty brave. And I have to say, so far overall, I think what's impressed people the most is that she is someone that, unlike a lot of people in Canberra that are career politicians, she's done things in her life. She's got a bit of life experience. She's had jobs outside of the public sector. And so far, she's been pretty good. But, if in a court of law, you'd want to see the tape to know if it was true once and for all. I think there's a bit of mayo on that story is my view.
Yeah. What do you make of it, Matt?
Oh, look, I think this does happen, Sharri. I mean, I spent time in a stock camp, and there are a lot of young women out there these days. In fact, the stock camp I was in was 50-50. A lot of tough gillaroos out there who would find themselves perhaps in those sort of situations. Look, so I'm not one to judge. I do think, agree with James, that Sussan has had a rich history. Look, ultimately, though, I think all these things are great, and she looks fantastic. Probably a good thing I wasn't made Nationals leader. I would not look as good in a glam photo shoot as Sussan Ley. Good luck to her. But we've got to get back to developing policies. Ultimately,
don't sell yourself
people
short,
are going to
Matt.
judge us on what we're going to do for them, not these stories and all that stuff. So,
no, true.
That's
and it would be good.
On.
And on that note, it would be good to hear about a few coalition policies because they have been non-existent. In fact, I don't think we've had a single new policy from the coalition.
They've gone too far the other way, and they're worried about making everyone happy and giving everyone a say.
No policy.
Let's start making some calls here, please. We need an opposition. Yeah.
Matt, you got to fire him up. That's why you're on the back bench, so you can speak out.
Do my best, Sharri.
All right, M.Canavan.
He looked great in a photo shoot.
Yeah, and at the Women's Weekly, they style you anyway. It'd be fun.
Yeah, of course. And there's there's half truths in there, and it sounds pretty true. But anyway.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you. All right, Gillian Siegel coming up live.